Joining us on this episode is Erin Hernandez-Reisner. Erin is a photographer, best-selling author, global speaker, and openly autistic photographer. Her focus in private weddings and portraits extends to her compassion project photographing those who have been through trauma. Her work has been recognized by worldwide brands and published over 200 times in 15 languages. I'm Kyle Wilson, and this is The Photographer's Problem. I have followed you since we first initially met, but you do so much business coaching and so many like classes and really educational spaces, but you're not big on social media. You're not a regular active participant there, which I think is so interesting when I meet people that have such a big following that don't really, like, you're busy, you're doing other stuff. Like, you're not occupied with stupid Instagram. And so I'd be interested, like, is that a purposeful thing that you do?
Okay. So my Instagram blew up a couple of times during COVID. Like I want to say around 2020, 2021, and 2022. I was a guest on some podcasts. I was a guest on a lot of women's events. And I had done some things when Clubhouse first launched, I was incredibly active and got invited to participate in a book that then became a bestseller. And I was also a guest at some different like online events, like women events. And we did a 24-hour women like awareness, safety awareness. And that ran 24 hours. And so during all of that time, I got a lot of followers. And I did an event where I actually I was the following speaker after Les Brown, with uh, like tens of thousands of people. And it was an online event. And it it blew up my Instagram because I didn't have a personal website. I was trying to build my personal brand, but it wasn't coming. It was a very slow, it's a slow process for me to build this. And when I did that, I just felt like everybody just needed to go to my Instagram. And so and my Instagram was actually a business. It was a business name. I had changed the business name to my personal name. I and then it started speeding up. It started accumulating. And I kind of felt lost because it happened so fast. It kind of I think I don't know if it scared me. It definitely had fear. And then I also had some pitch nights. Like I pitched events. I pitched different people. Um, and they did a launch of like the Los Angeles Tribune, and they pitched it. And there were thousands of people in that clubhouse room. It was the early ages. I'm not on there anymore at all, by the way. Like, mm-mm. um, but when that happened, I won that pitch night, and it ran like hours. And that night also it closed my Instagram. I got locked out of it because I had so many people hitting it. And so I sort of raised super fast, and then I just didn't know what to do. But I've been overcoming trauma. And so having to heal from all of this trauma and understanding what happened to me in my life, what that means, it's it's caused me to slow down in some aspects and take a minute, take a beat, look at my social medias. I'm about to be posting a whole lot more. I've been creating like crazy, but I also do a lot of content creation for other companies, other people, and I enjoy that a lot. But I do a lot of art, and I work with clients privately. So I work a lot, but none of it was out there. And I think that it's because of my trauma. I mean, it straight up is. And I'm able to come out and do a lot more. Like you are getting the beginning of that. You saw the trauma portraits and that's the beginning of a massive series. And
That's
I've been
awesome.
photographing trauma portraits for years now, like almost a decade. And
Really?
people have
Well,
hardly seen any of it.
that's really amazing. I can't say I have like a body of work that I've been sitting on like that, but I do struggle with like images that aren't, say, a wedding or a portrait session or something like that. I have just so much of that hanging around from like personal work that I've never had a home for it. So I kind of understand the idea of having a ton of work just sitting around. Like, where does this go? What do I do with it? And when am I ready to do something with it? Um, but I totally understand the stepping back from Instagram as it blows up. I was really active to a point that I think I went from something like 1,100 followers to 14 or 15,000 in the first year of really paying attention to it, and then another 25,000 or so on top of that. And I really wanted it and like calculated with it. And then due to my own just life trauma and situations that had happened, I stepped away as well. I went, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be on this app. I don't want to be scrolling. I don't want to be paying attention to it. And I tell a lot of people, I go, yeah, I'm in therapy because of Instagram. Like, and it's not the case, but it's definitely the starting point. It was definitely finding a therapist who understood the mechanics of this really silly platform that is so not important and yet also very important, and how it participates in day-to-day life. So it's, I give you praise for the fact that you do have a really big following, and obviously it sounds like it came upon really quickly, but that you've been able to kind of go, you know what, that's not for me right now. I'm working on some other things, and that you want to slow down and work and like prioritize elsewhere, which I think is great. Have you felt that by not using that tool, it's been more difficult to grow any other aspects of your business?
Hmm. Yes and no. So, what I found was not that I wasn't growing in other aspects because I had a well established business already. I already had clients that I already work with. So, that was never, I mean, you have to realize I ran a portrait studio for 15 years, bricks and mortar, and we no longer have that. We moved in 2020 and I sold stuff by 2022, and then I kept my high net worth clients, and everything else was kind of gone. And I was okay with that. That was the evolution of my business. It made sense for me. And I was much happier with that. I loved it. I still do, but I haven't needed that. I haven't needed to expand more. What I found though is that when I was doing that, it was all private. So there was nothing for me to share online with the work that I was doing.
Mm,
And what I found to be the most difficult actually was how much people didn't believe stuff was real if they couldn't see it. And it happens more with like other photographers or, other people because they're like, well, I don't know if that's real. I don't know if this is real. Like you say you do this, but like where's the proof? And I'm like with my clients privately because it has nothing to do with you. You know, and I think that with that and part of it too is that what allows that trust to be established with my clients is my trauma. They know that they are completely protected with me. I will never let somebody see an image that doesn't need to be seen. And they're not getting married for the world to view or judge their wedding. They're not. It's for themselves. And so it's it's been an interesting thing to see it because now that and there are a lot of people that do know me. Like some people know me. They've followed me for years. They've seen this. I mean, I've been speaking and teaching for like since like 2014 or something. So almost over 10 years now. And so some people who know me and they know that they're like, "Oh, wow, yeah." And they know me. But I think that I wasn't comfortable coming out. I wasn't comfortable sharing with the world all the things that I was doing. I wasn't comfortable sharing my voice. I was terrified. I had so I spoke in Italy in 2019 and I had spoke at this large conference and I had higher billing than the editor of Vogue Italia. I did not know that till I arrived. My pictures blasted everywhere. Everywhere. It was humbling, terrifying. Of course, I have autism. I'm hearing impaired. My anxiety's through the roof, and I have a massive panic attack. before I'm walking on that stage. Of course, I have somebody messing with my headset. I have somebody, you know, speaking a different language, trying to prepare me. I'm overwhelmed. Um, my emotions are going. I pulled a Ted Lasso and asked for a water, and it was bubbly water, and I spewed it all over the stage before Ted Lasso was a thing. This is a bunch of Canadians were there that I knew, and I just taught a workshop up in Canada right before this, and so they all came to see me and to enjoy the conference. And it was I love my Canadian friends, like I love them, they're great. And they still have jokes about me spewing this bubbly water everywhere. But when I was done, I was like, this was supposed to be like one of the best moments of my life. You should like be reeling. It's amazing. And I'm not stressed by stage. I grew up in theater. I grew up on the stage. I learned how to speak and sing and use my voice through like learning how to like I'm a trained opera singer so that I could speak correctly because my ears don't work right. So when when you go through all of that stuff, the stage feels like home. But I had just mounds of anxiety because there was my name, my story, my face, and it wasn't me hiding behind a business. It was absolutely me. And so I think that social media was an amplification of that. It's a larger audience and it's more people that you can connect with. And I think that I care about how I connect with others. And I want to make sure that I'm connecting in the right ways and the ways that I want to for my brand, and not what will necessarily make more money or what will look more impressive to different people, but like who I am as a person, if it's going to be me. And I didn't know who I was, I guess. And so it's definitely been a tough 3-4 years of really identifying and becoming okay with the things that happened to me in my childhood and understanding what that meant for the future. Because I actually blocked it out, and I built a giant wall and then was challenged in a clubhouse room with other photographers and broke that stuff down. And it was a good challenge, but I was like, why am I all passionate about this? Why am I passionate about building a professional brand, instead of a personal brand? And I was like, a personal brand is going to be built anyway, whether you want it or not, it's going to happen. So then, in that room, I realized what had happened to me. It's like doors unlock and your subconscious comes out and lets your conscious know. And then I shared it for the first time openly in that room. And then it's been a massive journey to understand and peel back the layers of what all of that meant and all the nuances and the things that actually had happened. And so it's actually immensely traumatic, and it's not necessarily normal. We don't have to share it in depth in the podcast,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
because I don't know. I mean, it's a trigger warning for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's your this is
But
your platform. You can speak to anything you'd like.
no, so it's been one of those things where like I had to do that, and I think that that's for everybody. I think that we all have to do that. We have to see what social media means to us and what we want to be doing with our own social media. Does it, I felt more comfortable identifying as a photographic artist than I did like just a photographer or like a content creator and I'm all of those things, right? A writer. I'm all of those things. But the artist felt better with me. It was like, okay, because this is my expression. And I've always been an artist. From the time I was a child, I was creative. I was an artist. And I think that I also wanted to make sure that, I wasn't a hurt person hurting people, that I
Yeah.
was a healed person helping people. And when the audience started coming, it felt like a weight. It felt heavy. I couldn't hide. I wasn't anonymous anymore. I couldn't just show up with sponsors and speak at an event and like feel cozy and then go home. It was this big giant world, and I didn't want to be like everyone else. So I didn't want to pop up and start teaching about photography the way everyone else is teaching about photography. It just doesn't feel like me. and I wanted to appeal to a larger audience. All of the people, because when I was doing those events, it wasn't photographers that were following me, and actually every time I post, I end up with even my clients popping back and booking because my clients follow me. They aren't necessarily active, but they're there and they watch it. And I have some new fun stuff that I want to be working on too. Like I've got some plans for LinkedIn for my target clients and articles I'm going to be writing. I'm excited, but it's for them, right? So it goes into content creation, and I think that it's all about like helping my clients navigate this world where you can't be anonymous, and being private is definitely a luxury, and it's really hard to find that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
As
keep going.
you've No, that was amazing.
I'm like talking too much.
No, not at all. You're talking the exact right amount because it's whatever you want. You mentioned kind of navigating, splitting this, building a business brand and having your personal brand that just kind of comes along for the ride with it because it's just going to be part of it. It's a little different than say my engagement with my business brand, what I make, whatnot. I get a pretty large sense of value from my work itself. I think I personally believe that my work is really beautiful. I have a whole bunch of self-confidence, esteem, personal issues I'm working through about how I believe about Kyle himself. That's a whole other pile. And so for me, for years, I really leaned on showing my work and the art that I could create because it gave me a sense of value. I said, I'm good at that. I have value in the world. I'm not a piece of garbage. And I then stepped away because I said, well, I'm leaning on that too much as a crutch. That can't be the thing that is my only lane of happiness. It can't be the thing that fuels me. I've got to go diversify my happiness and find some other things to love. And so as you've navigated both your business brand that you've built and your personal brand that you've built, and obviously you're also just real life existence that happens completely separate from all of it, what's the thing that brings you value that you say that when I put my fingerprint on it, that makes me feel like I've done a good thing. I've brought something into the world. Is that your personal brand? Is that your business identity that you've built? Or is that the smaller interactions that are completely private and like people don't even know they exist?
Okay. That's a really good question. Okay.
Thank you, Marco, for the
So,
coffee.
yes, right? Oh, and dude, you see my mugs?
Adorable. I love it. We got to make sure Marco gets the shout out for doing a good job. He set up the mic, set up the
Oh,
audio.
he's
He's getting
amazing.
coffee. He's
So,
amazing.
so these are discontinued, and this type of mug, and it's bone china from Tiffany and Company. My husband bought it for me when my book became a bestseller, and I was like, "Oh, yay. That's so awesome." And so I'd actually been gifting this stuff to like clients and different people,
Oh, wow, that's
and I never
awesome.
had one of myself. And so
It's a
he
beautiful
was
gift.
like, yeah, he was like, "Here." And it was a really beautiful surprise. Um,
That's awesome.
okay, value. It's really interesting because it's such it's such a good question, but it's so hard actually. And I don't even know necessarily why that's so hard. I think it's because I'm a complicated person. I think most people actually are complicated individuals. I think we want everything to be simple, and maybe eventually we get to that simplicity. I mean, I've definitely fought for the peace in my mind,
Yeah.
but the value.
I find that the
So,
more simplified I get, the more bored I am. Like I stretch for simplicity and consistency and stability, but almost every time I get a pretty good grip on it, I'm like, oh, this is really boring. I had a lot more fun when things were chaotic. So it's tough in that way.
so
But yeah,
you're
I do
somebody
think that
that you have to
everyone's
be doing a lot of things. I have to do a
yeah,
lot of
that's
things
the
too.
that's the that's the ADHD.
I'm like very okay. We're in the same, but my husband has it like
Yeah,
worse
yeah,
than I
yeah.
do. My autism, I feel like counterbalances my ADHD. But there are times Marco's
They're
like,
working hand in hand.
they do. I'm like, yay, partnership. They like to be married.
Yeah.
But my husband is like, he'll laugh. He'll be like, yeah, you got ADHD. It's funny. And the happiest I am is when I'm losing stuff. Like when I'm
Oh
just
my gosh.
so, and I don't
That's
get
my
that way very
frustrated moment.
often.
If I'm
But I
losing
love
things
that.
or
I love
dropping
that
things,
moment.
or
And then I'm frustrated because I've misplaced things, but then I'm okay. But the value, okay, so I had, there's your worth, there's your value, all of those things, like the things that I value. I think that that's a really hard because I have, along with the healing and the overcoming the trauma, and of course I'm dealing with the autism. So with the autism, I've masked most of my life just to fit in, analyzing everything and truly masking. And as I'm healing, I'm starting to try and tear down those masks and be more of myself, which is very complicated because my entire structure was kind of founded on masking. It was
yeah.
it was built it was built around that. So to tear something down that between the ages of 0 and 7 I was taught how to exist in this world by doing that, it's very difficult to tear it down. And the reason why I guess I'm talking about that when it comes to values is because as somebody with autism, my values ended up, I don't know how much they were my values. As much as I valued being liked and appreciated by other people and trying to make myself small so that I didn't disrupt the world that I was in or blew things up or was too honest or too blunt or too obvious or, it hurt people's feelings all the time. I ended up like navigating this world. And so my values became, and I think it is this way with like a lot of children, they grow up, like your values become what your parents instill in you as having value, but that may not truly be my values. And when we go through, I guess we could just be honest and talk about like, okay, so my husband is Afro-Mexican of Jewish descent. So he's born in Mexico. Um, and I'm white. I was adopted. Um, I'm like of Scottish, mostly Scottish, and I'm adopted. But when you start looking at racism as a white person, and you start realizing that certain people are have racial biases, or they are sexist, or they have uh, old views of the world that you do not align with, that you actually never aligned with, you start seeing things, and then you realize like those are not my core values, even though that's the way other people, their core values. And so even marrying my husband, like no one wanted us to get married. Nobody. So that was a big fight and battle. And that was one moment, like, we've been together for like 18 or 19, maybe 20 years at this point. Um, so, but that was a breakaway, that was a moment where I'm like, my core values do not line up at all. And I didn't fit in with my family either. I always fought for the underdog. I didn't like it when people were mistreated. And I think it's because I was mistreated. And
I
I
just
was
learned a word
always
for this, by the
conditioned.
way. Not
What?
to interrupt you. I just learned the word estrangement like this week, and estrangement is the definition of misaligning interests and values of people that you normally would have or care about that are in your circle, and going, oh, yeah, we're family or we've been friends for 20 years, but our values and interests are not on the same page anymore. And that activity of realizing that and stepping further away, I hadn't known it. There was a word for it, and now I'm excited to
No,
know
it's
it.
amazing. And so I think that my point is that I'm reestablishing my values now. And I think I have been reestablishing my values over and over again. One of them is that I do believe that people have a right to be redeemed. People have a right to win, to chase their dreams, to go after the things that they want to go after. That, you don't have to spend your whole life fighting, even though we fight. We fight for everything that we want. I mean, especially if things happen to you, and I think there's an evaluation. I've questioned loyalty. I was loyal, like really loyal. Like I know what it's like to be loyal from some of the things in my life. And then I thought about it and I was like, I'm more loyal. Like now that out of trauma responses, now that my best friends actually they're no longer alive. And so in 2021, my last friend from kind of my childhood who knew some of the stuff that I'd gone through, she she died. And it was, and she had a really hard life too. Like she went to prison for several years. She called me and was messed up, and I went and I picked her up. We got her cleaned up, and she wanted to turn herself in. So we went and we turned her. She turned herself in, and then she got out, got in a bad relationship, got back on drugs, had another, and then ended up dying in an accident. Um, and was that was really hard for me, but I knew loyalty based on those people because they would do anything. I mean, there was nothing we wouldn't do for each other. Nothing. And so when you all of a sudden get out of that culture, and then you're like in a business culture and you like expect a brand that's going to sponsor you or a friend that you've made to be like that type of loyal, it doesn't exist. And so reestablishing my loyalty lines, because like I'm the bury the body person, I'm the drive the car, I will never do the drugs, but I will, no judgment, go pick you up and make sure you get home safe. I stole a car at one point to go pick up my friends who ended up,
I support that.
My friend threw up in this guy's car and they kicked them out on this side of the road, and they managed to get like over this highway to a gas station in a really bad part of town. It was super cold, and I pushed my mom's car out of the driveway and then I stole my mom's car. And then
it was necessary.
Up. I know. I don't really know. I didn't like, it was really weird. I say like pushed it out, but I didn't really. What I pushed up was like the garage door. And then I like
kicked it in neutral, pushed it out of the driveway.
I know, it was really funny. I mean, I'd be mortified at the time, but that's the person I am. I mean, I will show up for people and I will fight for people when I think that something's wrong. And because of the autism, I feel like sometimes it's too aggressive. Like I will aggressively do something and then those other people end up like those two people will end up mending their relationship, and then I'm like, oop, I came in too hard and now everyone hates me. But I think that that's okay too, because if a company is going to be or somebody is going to need that kind of check because they are literally mistreating another human being, then it is what it is. And if I fight a little bit too aggressively for things that I think are wrong, then so be it. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. So I was an athlete, and I always had these two polar extremes with my trauma. So there was all this negative stuff that was happening, and it included bullying, and some of the stuff that happened to me, like it resulted in a very public trial. So as a child, the things that happened ended up being very public. And then I came back to school and I was bullied and severely bullied, and and it lasted years. And so on one end, I was immensely suicidal. Like I tried to commit suicide every single day for at least 3 years. And then on the other hand, I was an extreme athlete. So just, I felt like the ADHD allowed me to like compartmentalize. And so when I was running track or I was doing gymnastics or swimming or, whatever sport I was playing, I was all in that sport. And so we have this thing with gymnastics. Then I got into power tumbling, which was really cool. But it's, you eat mat. Like if you go for something, you go for it. You can't half-ass something. You're either going to make that or you're not.
Or you're gonna, yeah.
Right. But if you don't go all out in trying to do it, you're not going to make it. Like you're already failing. And so I guess I always applied that intensity with almost everything I did. So it was like, okay, like if we're going to do this, we're going to jump in and we're going to do it. And we're going to try it and we're going to learn. And then we're going to turn around and we're going to do something else. And we'll make our adjustments and we'll learn fast. And I know that people are like, oh, you fail fast, except I don't really like failing like at all. Like I absolutely abhor it. Like if I can
I
never
I
fail.
I like the notion of. I mean, your version's a lot better. It's the eat mat. The one that I grew up on was the classically falls to the wall, and that's how I've been with everything. It's been how can I like and there's certain things I avoid because of it. Like I won't mess with video production outside the extent of this because there's so much trial and error and failure to get to the point that I would want to, which would be making something as beautiful as Interstellar. If what I make on video doesn't come out looking like a Christopher Nolan movie, I'm going to be mad because my photos have that level of quality, in my opinion, and I've worked for years to get there. But video seems like a bunch of failures, so I'll avoid. There are whole chunks of things like, you know what, nope, I'm not even going to mess with that because I'm not interested in the fail part. I'm only interested in the success part. Are there things that you have that as you've kind of gone, as you said, like to the mat, where you go, I don't like failing, I fail fast, I want to like be all in? Are there things where you'll avoid it and go, you know what, actually, I don't even want to mess with that. I don't even want to participate in that activity because it's going to be too much failure to get to the success part.
Well, truly, I think the social media was a massive one. I think that the amount like of judgment that everyone had and not being a healed person, that judgment and the horrible comments that can come in, the disbelief, the rudeness that can come in, all of that stuff can straight up like hurt somebody that's not okay with who they are. And so I found that when you build a business, people don't do that. They don't go and like bash a business for like no reason. Okay. I mean, like that's fine. You may have some unhappy clients and you have lots of happy clients. I mean, our goal is to have happy clients. We want to serve them and it'd be amazing. And anytime you have a business, it's like there's this wall in front of you. Like you're behind it supporting this business. And so when people approach it, it's not as approachable. And I think it's really interesting too, because with social media, businesses, they have to run ads. The interaction just isn't there the way it is personally. And I'm even today, we're switching my social media because I had Erin Hernandez-Reisner was like a personal brand. It was built out there with a business page. And I was trying to do that. And there for a while it was going really great. And then the last like 2 years, it's just been stagnant and like dwindling. And not just because I haven't been posting as much, but even when I do, the interaction is really difficult. And then of course they came out with these professional brands. So you can flip your profile to a professional brand. Well, I've been doing research on that. You can't run ads on it yet. I bet they let you here pretty soon, but they are pushing those. So now I'm shifting into that and we are moving it and I'm taking my personal brand that was a business and I'm removing that aspect and we're actually transferring it into an actual business. And so I'll be able to transfer all those followers, everything into another business and actually set it up like a business. And I think that when I really started building this personal brand and identifying my pillars, identifying who I am, what I want to be discussing and talking about, all of this, and it can always grow and evolve, right? But all of a sudden, I started seeing business brands come off. And I went, okay, so this is me. This is a business. This is a business. This is a business. And this is me. And so then all of a sudden, I want to say within like the last few days, the amount of clarity I've had is astronomical. And that's really where you can start running and go. I mean, I have a ton of content about to come out. I'm actually really excited about it. I'm excited. That's really funny that you addressed the social media. It's actually something I'm insecure about. I'm very insecure about the fact that I wasn't posting regularly because it's a performance.
It's
And
interesting
people
because I think when I asked you like what you value and we were talking about simplicity and complexity in people, the truth of it is anyone at any level of existence, whether they're doing a ton of accomplishments or doing nothing, or say like your friend going through a troublesome situation, they have value. They bring value into the world. If I never post another photo and you never post another thing, we bring value into the world. I don't believe that about myself, and so I have to navigate and figure that out. And so for you, it's like you're able to go, loyalty and value can come without the accomplishment part. You don't need to post things, and yet you still, like you just mentioned, are insecure about the fact that you're not posting. But in my opinion, from a person who's just met you now, that you have this really beautiful, healthy approach to what is value and what is valuable and what is value to you, or and what aligns with you. And none of that sounded like, hey, the only reason someone can have significance in the world is if they post their compliments and do all these things. And yet the spin of it is, just a minute ago you went, yeah, I'm insecure about this because you're not posting something, which is so counterintuitive to how you actually sound like you operate the world.
Well, and I think it's because that's the pressure of the world, right?
Yeah.
That, I mean, if you're not posting on social media, do you even exist anymore?
Right. And
How
it's
does that's how it
also,
feels. And yet it's
I've
not
also,
true.
no, it's absolutely not. And I've also struggled with this idea of that, sometimes I can kind of fall back on like a random artist. I think of somebody like whoever the current head designer of, I don't know, Gucci is. That guy's probably not on Instagram posting about his stuff. He has other things, he or she, whomever it may be, has other things to go do, and Instagram's not their focus. So that's kind of one of those things I backburner in my brain. I go, there's plenty of wildly successful people that are, Annie Leibovitz isn't posting to her Instagram. She's busy. She's got other stuff to do. And so similarly, so it's like with businesses and our art, like our art, it overlaps so with so much of our business here, and our art feels personal. And so whether that be a workshop you're putting together or images, your art is personal. And when you were mentioning about there's this wall between when you're a business and how people interact with it, I was thinking, yeah, when I post things on my Instagram, I'm open to critique. I'm open to people being rude or nice or everything in between. If I'm a dog groomer shop and I post on my Instagram, no one's going to be a dick to me. Everyone's going to be really nice to me because I'm just a business and there's no need for it. But for whatever reason, photography, and we just had a situation with it on our own on the Narrative Instagram page. We posted a photographer of the week who had a really cool blurry photo series that's trendy right now. Anything that's trendy means someone's mad about it. And a ton of people were commenting directly on the photo or at the photographer about how they really, really rude stuff. And it would be one thing if we had 1 million followers, but Narrative has 20,000 followers. So at that point, you're pretty much directly talking to the photographer in question. And it's like, why do people feel it okay to point at a business that is an arts focused business that they're probably also in one of themselves, and then just to crush people within it? And that's part of the system. That is why I'm okay with not being super active on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. If the system says that we're supposed to be sharing and posting and sewing and so on, well, the system is also kind of a dick. And so why am I believing what both parts of the system are saying?
Well, and what part of being an artist? I mean, okay, artists are system breakers. We're not the people that conform. We're the ones that bash out. We're the ones that repel against or change. It's we change the systems. And actually it's really interesting because you're right, like but you know what? Here's the other thing too. There's a lot of hate that is happening right now because I really believe that people are struggling. And I think that people aren't happy with their lives. And I think that they're seeing things over and over and over again. And I think that they might be seeing a life they wish they could live or just being unhappy because they are showing how social media now is like this addiction. I do believe that content creation is, sorry, I do believe that content creation is something that's going to be really forthcoming. I mean, but that can be anything. We're creating content right now. There's so many different ways for us to create content that serves not only ourselves but other people. And I think that we've got to be the people that can handle the negativity and go, you know what? And this is where the healed part comes in. It's not me, it's them. They clearly have an issue. When I think about Sotheby's or Christie's and I think about these auction houses and I think about museums, a lot of the work, a lot of people don't like. When something gets sold or something is of high value, a lot of people don't understand. They can't see the value. They don't understand why it's so amazing, or what makes it innovative, or what makes it creative. Why did this piece sell for so much? Why does this have value? Right? We're back to value. Why is this one it? And I think that when we're looking at, I've even seeing the trend of like, flash photography on cameras. We've been seeing that with celebrities all the time, you know, um, and that happens because you put your flash on the camera, you go to an event, you're photographing different people,
Yep.
you need that shot immediately. You don't have time to like maybe do off camera flash. There may not be
It's the
space for you to
technical
have off
means
camera flash.
to a quick, yeah, it's the technical means to an end.
Right. And then we're looking at like these blurry photographs. Okay. But like, what is that? What is that? When it is on purpose, it's emotion, it's movement, it's this expression. I actually loved the images, by the way.
I do too. Big fan.
And
And not to even cut you off there, but like you mentioned system breaking. That is like system breaking. I mentioned it in a reel I posted about it, that I have an art design book laying around somewhere, and the general context is you need to know the rules, and then you can smash them. Like, as long as you know, like, that photographer is a beautiful photographer. That wasn't an accident. She did those on purpose. They're really beautiful work. And she said, okay, everyone's making, whomever started the blurry trend. I mean, this has been going on for longer than the last year. 5 years ago, it was happening with the Justina Bedford, or the Belfords, or Bedfords, whatever their name is. They've been doing it forever. It's just system breaking, and then you're going to have people that are contrarian and upset about a difference for some reason. The same people who should be other system breakers, other artists.
no, you're right. I mean, and no, you're absolutely correct. I mean, I have nothing else to say on this matter. No,
Nailed it. We got it. That's it. We
yeah,
figured out. We fixed
check,
photography, social media just now. Boom.
check. No, I do. I am excited about, we need to stay connected on social media. And anybody else that's out there, like, I want to actually connect with people on social media. I don't want it to be you just come and end up commenting, because I actually respond back. And I think that's the other
Yeah.
thing about where I've been able to maintain followers without actually posting, is that there are certain people that I'm on there, I'm just not necessarily, I haven't been sharing my stuff. And so I'm
Yeah.
going like, and I'm commenting, I'm having conversations with people, I'm meeting people, I'm making friends with people, and not just photographers, but like all different types of people. And so I think that that's the other thing too, is that social media is meant to be social. So I think that I had to get my head wrapped around like what it meant to me, and maybe start using it as a social platform to connect with other people. As an autistic person, that's something I struggle with. I don't identify with having lots of friends. I wish I did. I wish I was the sorority girl that could like high five. I wish that I was the girly girl. I'm just not. I'm not.
I
And
think when
uh,
you mentioned that your clients really appreciate, like, you bond with them through trauma and loyalty, I think that when I started to come off of Instagram and social media, I had a kind of quick quote, and it was like, Instagram and social media is just everyone sharing their public successes, and while everyone is sitting in their private defeats. And I find the accounts and the people and the human beings whom I tend to connect more with are the people that are really honest and not performative honest. There's people that have full of accounts and poetry and sad boy music that are a performative, authentic honesty. Um, but then there is the accounts that I find the addiction to, which, as I'm scrolling through, are the perfect little life, two beautiful people kissing in the rain in Tokyo. Yeah, that'll tug at my heartstrings, and I want to see it. But I try to unfollow those pretty quickly, because that's not real. Now I'm just sitting on my couch in my pajamas on a sad Friday, comparing myself to that, and I don't want to do that. I want to read and hear about other people's real life, just like our conversation here has been way more about what's actually happening and how our human existence has to navigate through it, versus, hey, so like, tell me about your workshop and how great it is. It's the I think defeats, if you're going to be real online, your defeats should be public, and those are the best people. Those are the real human beings to connect with.
so anytime you're looking at stuff, and this is very different, and you see like the people kissing in the rain in Tokyo, what do you like about it, or because at some point, like, we are drawn to that for a specific reason. And I think we have to be honest with ourselves as to why it makes us feel a certain way. And I started doing that too. But if you see everything that I have, like, within my phone, I have all of these saved on Instagram. I have a ton of different, like, folders that are saved, and I even have, like, co-creators with that folder. So I have a lot with my husband. Like, one is called, like, Experience the World. And so every time I saw somebody like post a really cool location, or I found a restaurant that I'd never heard of before, I'm like, I'm not going to remember this, but I want to, because maybe someday, not even maybe someday, like, I will be going to these places, and I maybe want to look that up at the time, and we'll see if it works within our travel itinerary, and we'll do that. So I started planning. I even did this thing called, like, Level Up Life. And anytime these, like, amazing quotes would pop out, or like I would see something or learn something, I did another one called Happy Health. And so anything like a diet stuff, or certain types of food, or like, exercising, even like certain types of exercise. Like, I had,
I save a ton of stretches. I understand that one.
yes. Okay. So we're looking at this, but there were times, like, when I look at stuff, and okay, so part of my autism, this is really messed up, and people are like, I don't believe you, you're so weird. But, like, I don't have jealousy or envy issues. Like, I don't have them. There are certain emotions that I feel like, as an autistic person, just me personally, I don't have. I've never wanted to be someone else. Even though I've had, like, really awful things, I think that my brain was like, you're never going to be able to be somebody else. So wanting to be somebody else is, like, pointless. So, like, my body's never done that. It just doesn't compute. And to the point where, when I was dealing with jealousy, I had to, I think it was a therapist at the time, and like, even my husband, like, they've sat me down numerous times and been like, okay, so this person's reacting this way, it's jealousy. And I'm like, what? I don't understand it. It took me a long time to understand it. And envy, right? Which is, like, a little bit different than jealousy. So people were like, you mean it? You're really not jealous, like, this, or envious? This person is, like, on this vacation having this dream life right now, and you don't wish you were there? And I'm like, no. And here's why. I don't want to be where that person is, because that means I would have to give up everything that I'm currently doing in my own life. When I view that, I view it as, like, a trait. Like, I would be in their shoes with those people. I don't want to be on vacation with their people. I want to be on vacation with my people. I don't, and so I think that my definition, but I did have to look at stuff and go, why does this make me feel bad? And why does this make me feel good? And I think that sometimes, if we remove jealousy and envy away from that, and then we break down into, why does this image make me feel good, and why does this one make me feel bad, all of a sudden we start realizing stuff, and we start being honest with ourselves. And I think that once we get honest with ourselves, then we can actually be honest about what we want. And until we're honest about what we want, we're not moving in the directions that we really want
Yeah.
to do. And I'm speaking about that because
I
I had to do that. I had to figure out what I
yeah.
wanted. And I knew I didn't
I
want to be here, but I didn't know where I wanted to be. That's not an option.
that's really good. Yeah, I do struggle with jealousy and envy. It's a really, really heavy trait in my life. It's probably the second most aggressive mental trait I have. And when I see photos like the people kissing in the rain in Tokyo, I see it through a few lenses. One, I see it through the creative lens, where I went, somebody set up a little camera, a little tripod, and those people are doing that. And then they ran back to the phone, and they looked at it, and they were like, oh my God, this is great. And they dropped it in the Lightroom, and they edited it, and they posted it. And I know that feeling of going, yeah, that shot's sick. That's awesome. I also view it through the lens of, like, watching a movie. We watch movies, and we see the little rom-com moment where the couple falls together at the end of the movie, and we get a little sensation out of it, and we go, I really love that story. And maybe part of it is, I want to be that, but the other part is, I just love the feeling it elicits, or evokes, whatever the word is. And so there's that. But the jealousy, envy is definitely a trigger within it. And I go, oh yeah, single and I really want to be in that position. I want to be on a trip with someone somewhere, not that person, not that those people, but I want to be on a trip somewhere with someone in that little Airbnb with a little patio next to the bubbling creek. And so it's things like that. But I do agree that like you have to find like, what are the things that make you feel good? What are the things that make you feel bad? There's a word that I've run across called, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, called edhonia. It's like ADHEONIA. And it's an ADHD autism aligned symptom. And it's the ability to feel miserable or bad, but not the ability to feel joy. And so that's something that I navigate through. I'm able to feel really bad, but to find the levers where I go, oh, I feel really good today, that is few and far between. It is quite literally a needle in a haystack. And so more often than not, it's finding things that, which makes culling through bad parts of my life, like Instagram, really easy. I go, nope, unfollow, 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 unfollow. I don't want that to be the thing when I load my phone up. So I do
and I'm
agree though with
struggling
the
with
notion.
that. I think the feeds get messed up. And that's the thing that
Yeah.
I don't like either. So there are times when I get tired of looking. Okay, so I love photography. I love looking at photography. I love looking at art. I love looking at bad art. You can't even, I mean, I will look at bad photography and still appreciate it. Like, I don't know what it is about me, but I will appreciate all of it. And I think it's because like, who are we to judge what's good or bad? Like, just like the blurry photos, right? Like, somebody is saying something, and I never want to judge someone trying to, because somebody's learning and they're trying and they're put in. So there's constructive ways and then there's deconstructive ways. And I think that, sometimes people just need a big hug. I want to hug you. I want to hug you right now. I think that, I had to be very honest with what I wanted. And I think that I'm going to give you advice. Can I give you advice? I'm so bad. You're not even asking for advice. I'm going to totally give you advice.
Just do it. Do it.
I cussed. Okay. You're taking a drink. He's like, I'm getting prepared. Okay.
I'm getting hydrated. I'm getting ready for this.
And no. I think that this is good for everybody. Okay. So it's one of the things that I learned while healing. To be very honest about what I wanted and to actually write them out. And really be honest, and like eliminate the shame that's associated with that. Eliminate the judgment that's associated with some of that stuff. Because sometimes we want stuff and then we're like, no, I shouldn't want that. I'm a better person than that. We're judging our wants, which is crap. So we shouldn't do that because we have these desires. And those wants are going to lead to the way we impact the world and how we feel. So like, you clearly want a relationship. I've
wrote out this list, by the way. Your advice has already been participated in, but I appreciate it.
Yes. Okay.
There's a thick journal of all the writings.
Yes. Okay. So
yeah, consistent, and I agree with that. Though I support this advice though, that to actually sit down, and it was part of Atomic Habits actually it was part of the process, and it being like, okay,
so
what do I need?
I just finished Atomic Habits.
It's so
really
great,
good.
and it's
great.
tremendously beneficial. But part of it was also just writing down like, what are the things in the world that I want that I clearly don't have? If I'm hungry, I go get food.
Mm-hmm.
I solve the problem. What are the things that I want? I think anybody should do that. And it does require some sense of self-awareness to get to that point. Not everyone's able to just dive right into it. Or
no,
go
it
to
takes
the mat,
a while actually to be honest with yourself. We all struggle with our own honesty because we deny ourselves over and over and over again. That conditioned response of like, well, I don't need this. No, you
it's
do,
the ability to kind of to look at your negative and or just general feelings from a third person point of view and not so first person with it, and really sensing it and looking at the positive traits from a first person point of view. And similarly with just being honest and going, okay, let's take a step back. Let's look at this honestly and more objectively. And that can make it a little easier. But that entire process is years to get to.
It is. It is. Have you written your list of the attributes you want in your partner?
No, I haven't really gone down that route. I don't think I've, just to peel back a layer here, most of my relationships have been pretty brief. Like there's been a couple longer ones when I was younger, but honestly, a lot of my stuff, my plane doesn't crash and burn. The plane doesn't even get off the runway. And so oftentimes that kind of a question feels like something I haven't even really gotten to that point yet. And a lot of this stems back from like a confidence and self-esteem issue of being able to like authentically show up, talk to someone, not perform, have my own value, blah, 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 blah. So I can find out if I even like, not do they like me, but do I even like them? And be the
Mm-hmm.
person who chooses rather than to be chosen. And that those questions, like what are the attributes in a partner that I'd like, are really important ones. But I'm still working at getting the plane off the ground. So it's it's just part of life. But being a wedding photographer and going through those things are that's a whole level of things I don't get to talk to too many people about it who I feel like so many photographers are married or they have a couple that they shoot together, yada yada. I don't get to meet to a lot of male photographers who are very single and also have photographed. I've photographed 675 weddings at this point. I have been nose to nose with so much love, it's crazy. And so that also plays a heavy effect in my own processes of things.
It would. That would also cause insecurity.
And jealousy and envy.
It would. I see it. I'm this is so good. I'm learning a lot about you. Like look at this. This is and you know what? I have a feeling that other people are going to relate to. You know, if
Yeah.
you're I mean, thanks for sharing. I mean, I can't really help
Do
you,
we
but
want to send
I hope
invoices
we're
to each other
helping
for
other
therapy?
people, right? I
We'll
mean, I
we'll
was like,
send
I'm going to
our
give you
own.
advice, but really it's more for everyone participating because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you want. You have to actually write it out. I mean, you have to absolutely. So
Yeah.
this is really funny. Um, my husband I mean, it kind of goes in with, I guess, manifestation and different things like that, you know, like, and, but it is like putting the desires that you want out in the world. So when my husband was growing up, like when he was a kid, I don't know how old he was. I think he was a little boy. He sculpted a woman out of like he
Wow.
constructed a woman and she looked like me. So he like
Wow.
he sculpted me as a child. It's so weird. But I mean, I'm I'm glad I look better in real life and not like the paper mache or like whatever. That's why I'm
He really
cellulite,
upgraded.
Marco.
He improved upon his design as life went later on.
Right? No, it's really funny, but like he genuinely did, and he knew. He knew well before I did. I mean, like he knew. He saw me. Like we had met a year before we realized we met. We were together, married for like 15 years. And then we were like, yeah, there was this guy that I met at this party this one time. I don't remember how we were talking. And then he was like, oh my gosh, that was me. And it was really funny because we both like had this, like we didn't remember meeting each other until like much later. And so it was interesting because we had these different, like our paths had crossed. It was kind of, I just watched like Serendipity the other night and I was like, it's kind of like that, I guess. Like we met,
Cute.
timing wasn't right, you know, and then
I
we
mean, honestly, I
forgot.
feel like someone sculpting their future partner as a child is not too different from like if you guys had found photos of family trips from 20 years ago and you were both in the background of the photo. Like that's those things that happen
Right.
once in blue. It feels the fact that you look so much like the sculpting is just like you said, it's very serendipitous.
Well, and like if you think about it, okay, so we joke now. Okay, so my first husband, which is a really bad relationship, abusive, it was awful relationship. Okay, but if you look, I watched The Princess Bride when I was younger. So my first husband actually looked like the prince, kind of from Princess Bride. And then I laugh because Marco looks like what's his name, Marco? Inigo Montoya.
Oh, Montoya.
And I'm
I
like,
can't believe I
I
didn't know the
leveled
answer to
up.
that.
I leveled up. He was my favorite
Yeah.
character in the entire movie. Anyway, I like that movie. But I just find it was really interesting because I remember like he knew and I did not. And had he not written out the attributes and had like I want this type of person and I want her to have these things and I want all of these. I mean, he had all of these different attributes like written out. I mean, he just knew. And so the moment he saw me, he knew and I was not ready. I told him no 5 times before like I finally said yes to marrying him because I mean I was terrified and I didn't know, but he did. And I think that it is true for somebody to know something and know, especially if there was I mean he didn't mean to plan. He's not a planner. He's got ADHD. Come on. He just knew. And thankfully thankfully he did, and then he held on really tight on this ginormous crazy ride that we were on. And I think that, one thing that he knew that he wanted was somebody that could handle his life and his struggles and his trauma and his, and he has a very, very crazy life. And so I could handle it because I went through my stuff. And so it's really interesting. But I think that deep down, and I think I appreciate your vulnerability. I think that deep down, all of us are looking for real connections. I mean, if I see something that puts a desire in my heart, it's definitely real friendships, like
Yeah.
true friendships. Like when I see people that are like best friends, I am like, wow, that makes my heart sing. And actually it hurts at the same time. So it's like, wow. And I love it. And I think it's beautiful and I appreciate it, but I know I don't have it. And so then but I haven't written my list. I haven't sat down and been
I was
like,
going to ask, have you written down
no,
your list of?
no. And you know what? I think that that's the other thing too, is that how can I make my list if I don't understand where and how I'm going to be applying loyalty? Because I had blind loyalty and
Yeah.
that's not the right thing. Blind trust, blind loyalty. I mean, I had my boundaries of what I was going to be doing, but like that all needed to shift. It needed to shift
Yeah.
because when you level up life, sometimes there are people that cannot go with you. And
I really like that. It's very good.
so I've gone through that and I've been going through that. And I think that there's a season where you're supposed to be alone. And I'm going to appreciate this season where, it's just me and my like one person, and build from there. And I do know other people. I mean, I consider them friends, but when I
Yeah.
think about deep rooted friends, I would sit there and be like, yeah, this person's like my best friend, like for real, because I really wanted them to be. And then, I really wasn't that to them. So then how is it? It's not
Yeah.
really equal. It's not
Yeah,
real.
it's not the fabric of your lives aren't intertwined like the
Right.
best friendship that you're seeking.
Right. And so I think that as I'm defining who I am and I'm leveling up my life and I'm going after the things that I want to go after, which I'm writing out, all that stuff is written out. I've wanted a photo community of my own for like 7 or 8 years. It's been a cycle now. And we're finally like doing it. And I'm happy about it. But it is going to be like
Yeah.
helping photographers get into content creation and how to expand with content creation. How are we doing this? But first and foremost, like everything has to come down to human connection. We can
Oh man, that's
utilize
so
the
amazing.
computers, but it is human connection.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm friends with you now, which is awesome. I really
Oh yeah,
like
we're
you.
really this. Thanks. You as well. I really appreciate being A, so vulnerable, and B, thank you so much for I've taken so much of your time today already. I really
Oh
appreciate
my
you
gosh, I'm
just
so sorry.
you've
Yeah, this was
been
like
no
super
no you
long. I hope
oh
I
no, I've
answered
taken your
questions.
time. Don't be apologizing to me. This has been really amazing and I really appreciate your time today and I'm excited for the next time we get to meet either unfortunately through a computer or in real life.
Yeah, we need to like update our lists. You can
Yeah.
follow up with me and be like, Erin, have you been updating your friend list?
Yeah, how's your friends list going?
What do you
Cool.
want your
Thanks
friends
so
to be
much,
like?
Erin.
And that's the thing too. Like, I'm honest. I'm like a really bad friend. I'm a bad friend.
Oh
I'm not
no,
going to
yeah, I
call
think
you up. I'm not
brutal
going to follow up.
honesty.
I'm like so bad. So then I'm sitting here going like, well, how can I be a good friend to somebody when like I suck as a friend? Like, you can't expect somebody to be a good lover if you're not going to be a good lover, right?
Yep.
You
It
got
takes
to
two
put
to
in the
tango
work.
in all social aspects.
Yes. So I'm sitting here going like, okay, well, how can I be a better friend to my husband? How can I be a better friend to my mom or, my kids? Um, how could just taking the few little relationships that I have and then really nurturing them and building them up and then, you know, finding the other thing and and letting people come in and out of my life. The exiting, that sucks. The exiting
Yeah.
is it hurts and it's sad. And I think that's where I find most of my pain. I guess we all did answer the questions. What are you struggling with, Erin? I'm struggling
I
with
was going to
radio
say, we have
silence.
some questions that we normally go through, but honestly, I feel like you nailed it all. This was a really great organic chat that kind of ran through our questions anyways. And I would have much rather had this conversation than any other form of like formatted questions. So I really appreciate your time today and taking the time
Thank
to
you.
chat and go through all this. And I'm excited to see you start sharing more stuff. All of Erin's links are going to be down in the comment section of whatever app you're listening to this on. And absolutely check her out and see what she's going to be posting and sharing.
Thank you, guys.